Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Show Me the Meaning, Wisecrack's movie podcast.
We're ready to show you lots of meaning.
Is that a holiday song?
Yeah, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. I don't know. It could have been better. I don't know. That was my first time trying it.
That was good. Yeah, sometimes the best take is the first take because it's spontaneous and it's real. So we'll run with that one. Anyway, that's what the holiday season is all about, right, Amanda? It's the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So you mess up.
And if today's movie is about anything, it would be about the power of the
spirit
holiday
of Christmas.
Yeah. And it's also about spirit. Anyway,
ooh, very good.
That's punny. Anyway, I'm Austin. I'm joined by the Show Me the Meaning crew. We got Raymond.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy holidays.
And joining us especially from the parks of Echo, we have Amanda.
Hey, guys. What's up?
And so what we're going to do is this is going to be our last Show Me the Meaning of the year. So we figured we got to do something festive. So let me just give the shout outs to everything. We got Merry Christmas. We got Happy Hanukkah. We got Happy Kwanzaa. And then for those of you that are Seinfeld fans, we got Festivus for the rest of us. And then Happy New Year, of course, because we're not going to do Happy New Year. If I've missed any of the holiday shout outs, make sure you educate our asses by sending us an email and let me know what other things I'm neglecting. But happy to all of the holidays. So we're going to talk about a holiday film, and we kind of chose a weird one, I think. I'm kind of really curious to actually get into this because, we could have done like Christmas Vacation or Elf or Jingle All the Way,
sure.
Home Alone or Die Hard or, the ones that get talked about. But we decided to go kind of, I think, in a way, this is very wisecracky because we're doing a sort of weird one that has some weird themes potentially. But we're talking about Bad Santa. It is the Billy Bob Thornton driven vehicle, directed by Terry Zwigoff, who is of Ghost World fame, for any of you who remember that film. But it stars Billy Bob Thornton, Tony Cox, Lauren Graham, who whenever I see her, she's just Lorelai Gilmore to me, and I'm sorry, she's amazing, but I just can't get that out of my head. John Ritter, rest in peace, I love you, John. Bernie Mac, hilarious. Cloris Leachman, who I completely forgot is in this, and then a slew of surprising cameos as well of all kinds of other people, and something I did not know, exec produced by the Coen brothers.
Yes, so they actually wrote the first draft.
Partially written.
Yeah, interesting. So maybe that's something we can talk about. But anyway, let's get into first impressions of this film. What was it like to rewatch the film? Let's start with Amanda. I don't know if this was the first time you've seen this film, but give us your first impressions, times rewatching it. What was it like watching it this time? Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay, yeah. So I'm kind of an alien in that I grew up without cable entirely. So this movie just was never on my radar. And I'm like, damn, this is this is my kind of holiday movie as a Jew. Just watching Christmas kind of get taken down to task is it's a ball for us. I actually when I was researching, I just read a little to see what the general reactions were, and all the Jewish outlets were finally a Christmas movie we can enjoy, and I just agree with that sentiment. It was just fun.
Okay, yeah, and then Raymond, what about you, brother?
This was also, you said this was your first time seeing it, Amanda?
Total first time, yeah. I'd never even, yeah.
Yeah, same here. And I didn't really know what to expect because I had seen the trailers and I remember when the movie came out. I remember the marketing and just thinking, it's probably not for me. And I really liked Terry Zwigoff's work, so I was still very intrigued because it just doesn't seem like his type of movie coming off of Ghost World.
Yeah.
Like it seems like a bit of a departure for him. So I was apprehensive but intrigued going into this, and I got to say I watched it and it just doesn't. It didn't land for me. I thought there was definitely some good stuff in it. There was some funny stuff, but I just kind of, maybe I'm missing the meaning, and you guys can help me figure that out. Yeah, I'm excited to dig into it because it seems like y'all are a bit more enthusiastic than I am.
So here's the thing. Full reveal, this is my first time watching it too.
Whose pick was this?
Well,
Wait,
I know, but
literally, are we all aliens?
well, so I had seen clips of it before, and I kind of got it, right? Like I was like, okay, I get it. You know, I get the film. I've listened to people talk about it in reviews, and like I said, I did have cable growing up, so I did get to watch clips and things like that. So I dip in and out of it. But I am such a sucker for like sentimental family stuff, as much as you wouldn't think that I am as like a professional critical theorist in some ways. But like I am a sucker for give me the goose pimples and things like that sometimes. So like I love a good like sentimental holiday film. And I think I don't know, like maybe I'm just in the mood for some love right now. Like 2020's been a brutal year for so many people, and I live in a country where it's been fucking fantastic. And I'm sorry, but like I have survivor's guilt because I live in a country where we've had no cases basically. We've had like 2 community transmissions for the last like month.
Are you New Zealand?
I'm in Australia. I'm in Sydney.
Okay.
And in our state, New South Wales, it's been like fantastic for the last few months. It's
Quit
open.
bragging.
No one's wearing masks. I know. This is what I mean. I have tremendous, like, it's like I'm calling it survivor's guilt when I talk with my friends back home. Like, it's brutal, right? So like I'm feeling all of this like self-indulgent guilt, and I just want to like feel good towards the end of the year. And I'm like, I just want something kind of. So I watched this film, and it was like the darkness of it that I was just like, man, it wasn't for me right now. Like maybe it would be good for me in March of next year. Maybe it'll be great for me in the middle of the year when I'm not like, when I don't need just happiness and family, and I'm away from my family, and like I can't go home right now. That's the one thing I guess that is a bit of an issue. So it's like, I just wanted some happiness. My mom just sent me a Christmas box too with like stocking stuffers and candy and stuff like that. So again, I think I was in the feels, and I wanted some positive feels, and I didn't get it. So I think I had like a barrier that prevented me from being able to enjoy the film, but that doesn't mean I don't think there's interesting stuff we can't talk about in the film.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Just to point out, I guess this was Ryan's pick. I forgot, and he couldn't join us today, so I'm sure he'll be very upset to hear.
That's ironic and fun.
What's that?
That's ironic and fun that he picked it and he's not here, and we all like just found out about it.
Well, this is on you, Amanda, since you're the only one that seems to be in the film's corner. You've got to hold it down for Ryan.
Right? I'll try, Ryan.
All right, sweet.
Yeah.
So, well, first, before we get into that, let's do just a quick recap of the plot of the film, and then we'll go ahead and delve into some of the meat and bones, I guess, of what's going on here. So, all right. So, what is Bad Santa? So Billy Bob Thornton plays Willie, a professional thief who, along with his co-conspirator Marcus, dress up as Santa and one of his elves, respectively, so that they can gain access to lush department store vaults and goodies. Marcus's wife, Lois, is also in on the setup as the getaway driver. Now, Marcus actually tries to take his elf duties somewhat seriously so that they can maintain their cover and the good graces of the department store employers. But Willie is a sex-addicted alcoholic who has no profanity filter around children. However, his safe-cracking abilities are what keep him integral to the plan. When they're hired by a mall in Phoenix, the prudish mall manager Bob, played by John Ritter, notices Willie's rough edges and brings this to the attention of the head of security, Jin, played by Bernie Mac. At the mall, Willie is visited by Thurman Merman, great name, a friendly but gullible and oft-bullied young boy who assumes that Willie is really Santa. Later, Willie meets bartender Sue, who has a Santa fetish, and the two begin a sexual relationship. After some car sex, Willie gets accosted, and Thurman intervenes because he wants to save Santa. Afterwards, Willie gives Thurman a ride home, and Willie learns that Thurman's dad is in prison for embezzlement and basically lives alone in a plush home with his senile grandma, so Willie tricks Thurman into letting him stay there as Santa. Now, suspicions at the mall continue to rise, so Jin begins to investigate Willie and Marcus. Meanwhile, tensions between Willie and Marcus increase as Willie's destructive behavior starts to threaten their cover. Jin then learns that Willie and Marcus are indeed the notorious Christmas Eve thieves and blackmails them for half of the score to keep him silent. Willie's condition worsens, and he actually gets to the point where he's attempting suicide by inhaling car exhaust fumes. But he's interrupted by Thurman while he gives Thurman a letter to the police where he confesses everything and reveals the planned Christmas Eve heist. But Willie notices that Thurman has a black eye from some bullies, and he decides to exact some of his own revenge, so he beats up the bullies and forces them to leave Thurman alone. Now, pissed about Jin's blackmail, Marcus and Lois set a trap for him, and they end up killing him. Then, on Christmas Eve, per the plan, Willie, Marcus, and Lois rob the mall. But after some technical difficulties, stall Willie's ability to crack the safe, which is supposedly the uncrackable safe, but he ends up getting it. He finally does get the goods. However, he remembers that Thurman really wanted a pink stuffed elephant for Christmas. So before they can get away, he goes to grab the little toy. But Marcus pulls a gun on Willie and tells him that his increasingly destructive behavior is jeopardizing the operation and that he has to go. But before Marcus pulls the trigger, cops show up because they were tipped off by Willie's letter, and a shootout ensues. But Willie's determined to get that damn pink elephant to Thurman, so he flees to the house but is shot in the back multiple times before arriving at the door. He survived, however, and then in a voiceover epilogue, Willie explains that he's recovering in hospital. He thanks Thurman and reveals that he was cleared of robbery charges because he's a rat, which, hey man, come on, don't be a rat, right? Isn't that the number one rule if you're a criminal? What? Snitches get stitches and ditches or something like that? Anyway, he's cleared of his robbery charges, and he's actually going to work for the cops as a sensitivity counselor. Sue is given temporary guardianship over Thurman until his dad's released from prison. Marcus and Lois are in jail, but Thurman has the big arc of the story. He has gained confidence. Well, I guess Willie does too. But Thurman has gained confidence to defend himself and stand up to the bullies. He kicks the bully hard in the nuts at the end, rides away on his bike, flipping off the downed bully. That is the end of the film.
All right, before we continue, I want to give a shout out to this week's sponsor, Storyblocks. Storyblocks is your one-stop shop for all your essential stock images, photos, videos, audio clips, and more. Look, any creator knows the perfect audio or image can be essential to perfecting a project. Whether you're starting your quarantine podcast with your best friend, streaming games for your community, or crafting a cinematic masterpiece for a festival, you're gonna need licensed audio. With Storyblocks, you can download an unlimited amount of content for personal or commercial use. And once you download an asset, it's yours to keep. Their library contains 1 million assets, and they're constantly updating, so you'll almost definitely be able to find exactly what you're looking for. Their unlimited option even includes templates for Adobe programs, which may help you put the finishing touch on your project. So check out everything Storyblocks has to offer by going to storyblocks.com/wisecrack or by using the link in the show notes. That's storyblocks.com/wisecrack. But before we get back to the show, we also want to give a shout out to another sponsor for this week's episode, NordVPN. Look, you've heard us talk about Nord before. Nord is a fantastic VPN server, and what they do is they protect your privacy, and they also give you super access via their many servers. They have over like 5,259 plus countries that protect your data while you're traveling in public, in airport or coffee shop. So if there's no data logging, they have 24/7 customer support for live chat and emails. You can have up to 6 simultaneous connections. Plus, it's compatible with most operating systems, including Windows, Mac OS, Linux, iOS, Android. They have unlimited bandwidth, automatic kill switch. So if you want to get access to NordVPN, they're offering a special holiday deal today. If you purchase a 2-year plan, you will get an additional 4 months for free. Just go to nordvpn.com/showme and use our coupon SHOWME at checkout. Protect yo information, folks. We love you. Now let's get back into the show.
All right, Amanda. Floor is yours. What are your thoughts? You were chomping at the bit there to get in there, so give us the goods.
No,
give us the
it's
goods.
because I saw the version where the kid doesn't. There are 3 different versions. There's the theatrical version, the extended version, and the director's cut. And I saw whichever one the kid doesn't beat up his bullies. Instead, the movie literally ends with him cleaning up the blood that Santa bled when he was shot. It's just an overhead. Does that happen in yours?
No.
Okay, I think that was spectacular. Maybe I'm sick, but because
I got that vibe. Oh, sorry to cut in. No, I got that vibe a little bit on the one that I was watching, that our ending felt a little bit tagged on. I know that this movie was really meddled with by the studio, and Terry Zwigoff had a lot of really hard feelings about it and stuff.
And he's been really open about it. There are some interviews where he's just like, fuck that studio. They tried to make it really heartwarming. That's not what I wanted. Yeah. That wasn't the point. And it sounds like your ending is like so much more heartwarming, obviously, than like the kid. Okay, wait, I actually wrote this down. So funny. The kid was cleaning up the blood that Santa bled when he was shot in his front yard while wearing a shirt that says "Shit happens when you party naked."
That's the same as ours, except he just has like he's just kind of cleaning his bike with the bucket of water. I think they used pretty much all the same footage, and then they just shot a slightly different ending.
But they just didn't show the cleaning of the blood?
That's what I'm guessing.
Okay. Cool,
Here's my thing. I think this is why it bothered me. Not because, like, I just wanted to have the feels. I think there's more to it than that. I don't think I liked the way that they tried to make this film have a kind of cheesy, sentimental arc to it.
And that is exactly what the director would have said. And if you'd seen my version... Whoa, we like watched a different movie. Yeah. No, it's like the ending. So the ending, he reads his letter, like the letter is read in voiceover, right? Like it's the same thing. It's just that he beats up the kids because he had an arc. Yeah, no, I definitely, I feel like the director would agree with you.
So
based on the interviews I've read.
You watched the director's cut or the extended cut?
I think the director's cut because it was pretty short. Yeah,
I read that. We may have read that same interview with him. I checked out that IndieWire piece where he was talking about how he gave up like half his salary to get final cut on this, and then they hired other directors behind his back and
Todd
did
Phillips
their own edit.
Filmed additional
was it
scenes.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was Todd Phillips.
He was directing them. Yeah.
Jeez, that's crazy. And he had to go into arbitration over it and everything. Like, he apparently has very sore feelings about this film, and I don't know.
I get it, because the whole point of the movie is like not to deliver on like the usual typical Christmas glee that Austin is so desperately craving. It was like the anti-goal. And so the fact that it happened even a little, like in my opinion, even like in my version, it happened a little too much with like the pink elephant thing. Because the whole point
that was
and like that was cheesy. And I didn't want cheese from this movie. I wanted like the darkness of seeing a match cut of a man's like head getting crushed by a tire with the bubble gum
exploding. Yeah, that was great. I think that's exactly what it is. It was trying to have its cake and eat it too, sort of thing, right? It was trying to have both at times. And if it's gonna go dark and cynical, like, then go dark and fucking cynical. Yeah. But then, like, you don't need to sugarcoat it. Right? Like, this is one of the things I've loved about living out of America. I lived in the UK, I lived in England, I lived in Scotland, I lived in Ireland, now I live in Australia, I lived in Europe for a bit as well. They have a dark sensibility.
Such a bragger.
Yeah.
No, but
we get it. Your culture.
Oh
Jeez.
my God.
And one of the things that's so great about it, I know I have to have 2 actually, because my other one's too full of stamps. I'm sorry. Okay.
Just dripping with stamp ink. These passports are.
I'm sorry. I'm such a douchebag.
Man of the people.
I need that cultural clout.
Shut.
And so, but one of the things I love is I didn't realize how not dark and how sentimental I was, and how much American films are just totally sentimental. But then when you go to Europe and you live in the UK, I mean, they got like a dark sense of humors, and I really appreciate that, right? And I've come to appreciate and to grow to learn to love that type of humor. And so I think that's one of the things that I feel like was missing from this, is that it should have just leaned into the blackness, right, of the black comedy, rather than try to kind of like appease the American audience by being like, oh no, but like we're all good inside and we're all potentially savable.
No,
Yeah.
and that's so real. And like Raymond and I have been saying, like in the interview, the director even I read a different interview. It was like a New York Times like store, like it was interviews with like everyone who worked on it, like interspliced. What do you call that?
Okay.
Like an oral
history.
Oral
Yeah.
history. Thank you. Yes. And in it, the director was just like, yeah, they wanted something fucking sentimental, so they shot extra scenes, and I was like,
Yeah.
fuck you.
Such a
So
bummer.
yeah. So
And
if it had just been really dark, you would have liked it more.
Yeah, I can see how
think so.
this movie exists in the in like the Terry Zwigoff filmography. Like every single one of his movies is about people who are exist on like a very limited spectrum somewhere between completely antisocial and just downright misanthropic. Like, and that's pretty much every one of his films. So I get what would be interesting to him about this from like the Coen script, which I imagine was much darker, and they've worked in this similar sort of space before. And I could see this going more in the direction of like Blood Simple, but for the holidays, or something kind of like The Ice Harvest, the Harold Ramis movie, which also stars Billy Bob Thornton, now that I think about it. But when I was watching it, it does have that notion or that vibe to it that like it wants to get it's all of its laughs from being really transgressive and insulting to all these kids, but then it does veer off into these sort of like sentimental cul-de-sacs that don't really go anywhere. And I guess the one thing I can give credit for is like the pink elephant thing is the bare minimum of growth for him. Like it's the, whatever, it's the thing this kid asked for. He doesn't have to put any thought into it. He almost forgets which color it is. Like, so I can see that being sort of an indication of like, yes, he's growing, but it's going to be baby steps. So I can kind of, let that one off the hook a little bit, but I do think the ending where it's like, here's a letter from jail or wherever he is, the hospital rather, where explaining like, everything's going to work out fine for us going forward. I'm like, I don't know about all that.
like this is not a happy family.
Yeah,
for
right.
Sure.
It's on the brink of falling apart at every moment.
It's the new normal. Come on, that's the new normal. They're happy, but they're on the verge of not being happy.
I wonder if they explore any more of that stuff. If the other, I think that Thurman is in Bad Santa 2, which I haven't seen, but I don't
either.
I'm not sure.
I did like write down as I was watching, like the joke is like a little bit one note. It's like Santa throwing up in a trash can. Isn't that funny if you've like witnessed SantaCon in New York City? Survivor. I wasn't a participant, but I was a witness. Yeah, there's like a little bit where you're like, oh, it's funny because it's Santa, but it's like it gets a little old, I would say.
That's what I was just going to say.
That was actually
like,
my main criticism.
Yeah, is it even that shocking to be like, oh, so he likes anal sex? Like, how many anal sex jokes are there? Like, ooh, like, fuck, post girls, is that fun? That's the other thing, too. I feel like if it's outdated a little bit, right? Like, like there was a time when the TV show Girls made, like, eating butts out the point of conversation online. So I feel like we have kind of changed as a society where things that would have shocked maybe in 2002 or 1994 or 1970 don't shock as much. So I'm not sure the jokes land as heavy. And I think that's part of it, maybe.
I think that's,
so I'm like, okay. Really, yeah, so he says bad words in front of kids, and he has anal sex, and he sleeps with big women. Ooh, are we supposed to laugh because he's having sex with big women? And they keep using the word midget rather than little people. Like, I feel like it's a very sort of like they're trying to be edgy and shocking, but I feel like we're in an age now where we kind of, our sensibilities have changed. We're also a little bit, like some of it's a little cringy, but not cringy in like a, oh, haha, that's funny, because they're trying to work through these like politically correct issues, but rather it's kind of cringy because it's like, that's just not really for us anymore. Like
I would actually disagree a little in that Tony Cox is the actor, I believe. Yeah. What's the character's name?
Marcus.
I forget. Marcus, right? Thank you. Like I do feel like Marcus actually like had like I feel like for 2003 Marcus was like pretty cool. Like they like the one time Billy Bob Thornton makes a joke about his height, he's like, oh, that's what you're coming up. It's like made
Yeah.
it's made to be like, oh, you're such a loser that you're attacking his height when he just attacked your entire character and took you down in 30 seconds. Whereas I feel like the stuff about like little people versus like dwarf was like more about like PC-ness than actually making fun of him being short, if that makes sense.
And there's
like,
also a weird sort of rope-a-dope that they do with that character, because he turns on Billy Bob Thornton at the end, but throughout the movie he seems to genuinely care about him, and like he's sort of the movie's moral compass a lot of the time, in a way that like makes the pill of all the humor at his expense go down a little bit more smoothly, because he's the only character in it who seems to have his shit together in a weird way.
And he has some great monologues, just like
he's really good in it.
Yeah. Decimating Billy Bob Thornton. Like he's like, oh my God. One thing that is so random and specific, they kept making jokes about like women giving birth through their buttholes. And I am not a body humor person, but I laughed every time so hard. They're like, your like mom shat you out. I'm like, what are you talking about? But it's so the Coens actually, when they did their revisions, they mainly focus on dialogue, and I feel like there are just like so many good dialogue. Anyway, sorry, that was a sidetrack.
No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, it is interesting, right?
Some of those lines you're referring to. Oh no, I was just going to say some of those lines you're referring to, I don't remember being in our cut, so I am curious how much is different between the two of ours. But sorry, Austin, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's just kind of an interesting thing to think about, like how does humor land in a shifting social landscape, right? Mm-hmm. Like oftentimes people talk about we live in a post 9/11 world, and you can't make certain types of films anymore because we've been jaded in certain directions, or we've kind of matured in certain ways, or we've just kind of gone down different paths. And so there's like this almost like clear historical demarcation, like before 9/11 and after 9/11 kind of thing, right? And similarly, I wonder if there's like a before financial crisis, after financial crisis, before Me Too and Time's Up, after Me Too and Time's Up, before whatever this is, after whatever this is, you know, like, and does that somehow change our sensibility when we're watching it, not just at an individual level, but even more at like this kind of like there's an organic consciousness that affects how it is that we can even receive certain types of comedic presentations.
And not just that, but also from like a pop cultural perspective, that like I think that this movie would have hit a lot harder before Danny McBride's entire career. Like I got serious Your Highness vibes from this, where you kind of mentioned, Amanda, that the one joke is essentially like the juxtaposition of Santa and being awful to children, like the ideal of Santa juxtaposed with Billy Bob Thornton's terrible behavior. And in the Danny McBride movie Your Highness, where it's like him and James Franco in medieval times, it's essentially the same thing. The one joke throughout the whole thing is like they're old-timey people, and they use modern obscenities in like an old English framework. And it's just I kept being reminded of that, and I'm once again not crazy about that movie either, and it was just one of those things that made me feel like, yeah, this whole thing just feels a little one-notey. There were I think standouts. Like I said, I thought Tony Cox was really good. I think Bernie Mac is always funny on screen. But I don't know. I felt like there was really no there. I just didn't really know what we were supposed to get out of it.
I feel like, yeah, no, even though I said it's like kind of one note, I do feel like there were some nuances. Like there were some like little things that I was picking up on. Like, this is just one example. They keep saying the line, "Let me fix you some sandwiches." Like the grandma says it, the kid says it. They say it over and over again until Billy Bob Thornton is just like, "Why do you keep talking about sandwiches?" And if you think about it, that's like the only expression of affection in the entire movie. Like they have no language for like expressing like love and affection. So they're like, "Let me make you a sandwich." It's just, it's like little things like that are just like that I just felt like were really funny.
It comes back to that.
Really, yeah, no, this is going to be a really interesting thing. I'm going to do an ad real quick, but on the other side, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that kind of gets us into what is it that makes a holiday film, because there's something about human connection and family and stuff like that, right? And that sandwich line might lead into that. But let me give a quick shout out to Shudder, another sponsor for this week's episode. We've talked about Shudder before. Shudder is really sick. Shudder is world's premier streaming service for horror, thriller, and supernatural content. It's spooky 24/7, 365 on Shudder. Just because Halloween is coming past, that doesn't mean that the scares don't continue. There are plenty of good Christmas, Hanukkah themed, and I don't know about other than that. Like, I don't know if there's a Kwanzaa horror film, but fuck, there should be a Kwanzaa horror film. And if there is, I guarantee you it's on Shudder. But so you can go to Shudder and get access to the largest collection of acclaimed horror movies and series right up to your favorite devices, which includes iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, Xbox One, Amazon Fire TV, Google Chromecast, Roku, Android devices, etc., etc., etc. You can stream great thrillers, horror, and suspense for only $5.99 a month. That's $56.99 a year. And they have a unique collection as well of exclusive and original films and series, as well as horror classics and blockbuster hits. I talked about it last time. Raymond, did you check out Leap of Faith, the William Friedkin
No, I haven't watched that.
I would really recommend this. Amanda, if you're a fan of horror as well, Leap of Faith, it's William Friedkin on The Exorcist, where he basically talks about the making of the film, the production of the film, the ideas behind the film. It's freaking fantastic. So I would definitely recommend that one. I'm a huge Friedkin fan, and Exorcist is obviously like a perennial classic in understanding what horror is, and it's influenced everybody. So check out Leap of Faith. That's a fantastic one. And then, of course, they have a huge, vast selection of content, a huge international library, range of genres, etc. So to get started, go to Shudder.com and use the promo code SHOWME, and you can try it for 30 days for free. So that's to get 30 days for free, go to Shudder.com, use the promo code SHOWME, and of course, click the link in the show notes if you want just a little bit of a shortcut. But again, that's Shudder.com, and promo code is SHOWME for 30 free days. All right, so go ahead. Raymond, you were about to say something, and Amanda was talking about the sandwiches, and I feel like there's something there. And I was thinking about, like what makes a holiday film a holiday film? Is it about the people coming together? It is about community. Is it about tradition? And these are people who don't have any of that shit. So then is the offer of a sandwich and like just the basic eating together, is that kind of the gift that is given for the season?
Well, I don't even think it's sorry, I totally jumped on that, but
it's all good.
I think it's supposed, like, the sandwich line is supposed to be sad, because that's the only way that Thurman and his grandmother, that's the only way his grandmother can express affection to him. And then when he's trying to care for Billy Bob Thornton, that's how he is like, this is how I care for someone. Make them like 2 pieces of bread with bacon, and I mean, not bacon, whatever. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Raymond?
Oh, no, I was just going to, I think you're onto something there. It's a kid trying to help in the only way that he knows how, because he's so out of his element. He doesn't really understand adult problems, and he hasn't become as cynical as Billy Bob Thornton, obviously, but I think it may be similar, like at least how I read the pink elephant thing. It may be similar to that psychologically, that, you know, making someone a sandwich is just the baseline. Like I can help put fuel in your body and keep you living for another day. And it's just one of those things that you don't have to hug each other or cry over it. You don't have to have a big moment about it. It's like just baseline nourishment. Like we're just learning how to take care of ourselves and take care of each other. And it's all these really, really little acts of I don't even necessarily know that it's altruism, but just basic affection. Like this is one of the first things, is being able to share a meal or something.
Yeah, and it's sad, like Amanda said, because it is so basic that maybe we take it for granted. But it's also really lovely because it's a genuine, sincere expression of gift giving. And then, and I mean that not just in the Christmas or holiday sense, but of gift giving in the anthropological sense, right? Of some sort of act of reciprocity and community building. And what you do when you give a gift is you forge a bond, right? And so I think there's something in that as well that is also kind of beautiful. But it's sad because you're like, damn, like that's a very impoverished form of gift giving from the perspective of a bourgeois holiday, which is all about like opulence and giving fucking watches and vacations and cars. And obviously they live in a huge home too, which is also important to understand. And their dad is a criminal, an embezzler. So they have this this massive amounts of wealth and this massive home, but it comes at
They
what
can't
cost?
take care of each other. Yeah.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
there is something to that. I think that we also could be reading way into this. I just imagine people in the chat being like, "Guys, it's a sandwich." But
No, but they say it like 5 times. In my cut, at least.
What I was gonna say is that it might just be like one of those weird, just recurring gags that they thought of when he thinks the grandma is dead and she like jumps back to life and she goes, "I'll make you guys some sandwiches," and then just like darts out of the frame. It's just one of those weird sort of like things that you just get used to hearing.
And that was like something I loved about this movie, was just like how weird the world was. It almost felt like a really like low budget exploitation film in some moments. Like I had some like The Room flashbacks in that moment when the kid comes to the door and Santa literally has her underwear in his mouth and he's just like, "I came to give you a gift." And the woman's
Sure,
like,
yeah.
"Hi, little kid." And Billy Bob is like, "Oh, thanks for the gift." And nobody acknowledges that they were like literally just having like about to have sex. And
Well,
it was just very surreal. And there were a lot of like, there were a fair amount of moments like that where you're just like, what is going on? Like, what is this world?
Well, and then the little
is
boy,
just
and then
oblivious
it's
to everything.
Yeah, because he's like, bye, Mrs. Santa's sister or whatever.
Right.
Oh,
right.
right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Billy Bob Thornton's
he
character
knew that
is-
Billy Bob Thornton was railing Santa's sister.
Yeah, right.
So it was
and-
just weird.
And Billy Bob Thornton's character is also just completely numb to everything, so it's like
But
he doesn't give a shit.
It was not Lorelai Gilmore. What is her name?
Lauren
Anyway.
Graham.
Lauren Graham, goddess. But it was just her complete nonchalance that this little boy was like seeing. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There were just moments that were like like hyper real or just not real. I don't know. You know what I mean?
There's also a weird thing happening with her character that like I don't necessarily know that I was offended by that character or the portrayal of her, but it was like I don't really know anything about her other than she has a Santa Claus fetish, which is such a weird thing to take away from your movie's kind of sort of central relationship.
Okay, so I had some thoughts on that. I was thinking about it because I was like, yeah, you're right. Literally all we know about her is that she wants to fuck Santa Claus. However, it's 2003. Like, how often do you see like female desire actually portrayed on screen? Like, she knew what she wanted and she got it. And I'm not saying it's feminine. It's certainly
She's very
not
assertive about it.
It is certainly not a feminist film. I cannot stress that enough. But I mean, having a female character whose sexual desire is fulfilled and who like asks and gets what she wants is kind of, it didn't bug me as much. Also because the boy was also kind of one note. He was just like a creepy, intense boy. I don't feel like he really peeled back the onion on him. So I almost felt like they were kind of maybe all slightly superficial characters in a way that like it didn't particularly bug me that she was.
Yeah, she's not given any more short shrift than most of the other characters.
Right. And I'm like
and
first to call a movie sexist. Like
and to add like a sentimental slick to this whole thing too, is it's also kind of nice because listen, man, people are fucked up. We all have trauma, we all have issues, and I think that the issue is usually if some sort of fetish comes from, I mean, I do a lot of work in psychoanalysis, so I'm not saying it's fucked up in a judgmental sense, but we all have tweaks, we all have quirks, we all have interesting things, right?
We all got kinks,
that stimulate our desires. Everyone's got a kink, right? And so Billy Bob Thornton is a sex addict who's an alcoholic, and he's got destructive behavior, and this woman has a particular sexual fetish, and they kind of find each other in the midst of whatever turmoil or life traumatic experiences that they're kind of experiencing. And again, this isn't a judgment because I think that everyone has trauma, and I think that the human experience is trauma. So the point is that how do you find different people to journey with alongside in the sort of like management or adjustment of dealing with your own traumatic experience? And so for me, there's kind of something lovely about the fact that they're like, fuck, we can enjoy each other, we can have a sexual relationship, and there's so much casual ease about it too, where she says something like, are you going to call me? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to send you some of those roses or whatever. And she basically is like, yeah, fuck you, whatever. You know, like they know.
Right, she knows that's not the relationship.
Yes. that's not the relationship, and they're totally fine with it, and there's no expectations. They're not trying to like live the family. They're not trying to fulfill some sort of romantic ideal. It is what it is, and I think
I do like that the movie never tries to push them in that direction, and that even at the end of it, when she's soaking her feet in the hot tub, and they're explaining in the voiceover that she's kind of lucked into this position as his guardian. It's like, yeah, we're all just gonna sort of ride this train as long as it goes. You just kind of get this notion that
don't we all dream
they're all
of
just taking advantage of the situation.
Santa?
Yes, Amanda, 100%.
Am I wrong? Also, it's funny you brought up feet, because one of my biggest notes was there are 2 pedicure scenes in this movie, both involving men. In one, Tony Cox is doing his wife's toenails, and the other, Bernie Mac, is getting his toenails done and being really bossy about it. Yeah. I feel like that really speaks to like the entire film's just like engagement with like masculinity in general. Like there's a lot of like what is a man, and the main character takes everything as an assault on his manhood. They talk about performance, and he's like, my fuck stick works, blah blah blah. Yeah. Like and I feel like it definitely is engaging with that, not to like leap points, but
no, yeah.
And he even
is why.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, he even like, there's like that weird moment when the kid gives him his pickle present, and it's like a phallus.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, I didn't have to read too far into that at all. That was really like on the nose. But
yes,
like when he beats up the kids who were beating up Thurman, he feels really validated, and it's almost like caring for a kid like gave him his phallus is like the coded message. I don't know. Am I crazy?
All I know is that was one of the few times I had a good laugh in this movie, was when he was like, he's in the car about to kill himself, and then as soon as he avenges this kid, that I think the next scene it cuts from him beating the shit out of like a bunch of little kids to him going, I think I'm getting my groove back. I think I'm feeling better. It's like he was literally like had a fucking exhaust pipe in his mouth 2 scenes ago, but as soon as he gets the chance to just take out some of his aggression on some children, he's like, yeah, I really think things are turning around for old Willie. Like
I actually wrote the line down. He says, I beat the shit out of some kids today, but it was for a purpose. Made me feel good about myself. It was something constructive with my life. I did something constructive with my life. Like I accomplished something. Like
he's thinking, this is the moment in most movies where the safecracker leaves the life of crime behind so they can take up a profession of beating the shit out of children. Like he's found his calling in that moment.
One of the things that kind of is adjacent to all of this, or maybe that is parallel to all of this, is I love the physical transformation of Billy Bob. From the beginning of the film, he's more concerned with wearing the Santa mask, and then it becomes less on until the very end. He's not even wearing the Santa beard at all, and he's just sitting there with his stubbly beard until the very end when he's shot. It's basically just him kind of getting shot in the back with no like pretense whatsoever to try to be Santa. So there's like, even though he's already like, we meet him in media res, we already meet him in the midst of his kind of alcoholism and his addiction. There's still what we see is a sort of physical transformation through the like use of the beard or the lack of use of the beard. And I think that like, it's almost like he kind of is like, I don't need to hide behind this mask. And he kind of just becomes, and I think beating up the kids is one of those moments where he's like, fuck it, I'm just going to be me. And as much as Marcus is done with him doing the Santa shtick, he's done too. Like he's done with it as well. And so in a way, the kind of relationship with Lauren Graham, Sue, the relationship with Thurman, the kid, like it kind of does, there is this kind of like an arc that you get. And what does it mean? Is that the sentimental interpretation of it? Like somehow he's found himself? Or is it just kind of like the simple kind of psychoanalytic? No, you just got to adjust to your trauma, right? It isn't about a cure. It isn't about fixing contradiction. It's about becoming reconciled to contradiction rather than resolving contradiction, And that I think there's something kind of nice about that. Because it isn't too preachy. You know what I mean? Whereas a lot of times the
Right.
sentimental films with the salvation, they
Yeah.
become preachy. And then that's like, this is what's normal. And you out there need to recognize that this is what the normal man is, the normal mom is, the normal woman, the normal child, the normal family. This one doesn't quite do that. And I think, Amanda, you're absolutely right. It kind of does throw a wrench into a lot of those kind of PC topics, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking about when you were talking about him like slowly losing his Santa-ness. Like I was
Yeah.
thinking there's that moment when he's like first having sex with Lauren Graham and he's like, "Can I just take off the hat?" And she's like, "No, keep it on." And actually
Yes.
that was like the main thing that really was bugging me about the movie is that if she loves him or wants to have sex with him as Santa and he's like moving past being Santa, that kind of like that felt thematically a little off to me. And I was a little like, I don't know if that is that crazy?
No, I get it. I think that's where the sentimentality does come in, because then they're trying to be like, oh, maybe they do have this connection at a deeper level beyond the fetish, beyond the
Right,
symptom,
right, for
right?
sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like
yeah.
I think
Which
what I
could,
loved
yeah.
most about this oh sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think what I loved most was just how the kid wasn't like a vehicle for like his reformation
Right.
to most extents. Like the pink elephant, like I said, I had a
Sure.
problem with, but for the most part, the kid was just a creepy fucking stalker that he was
He's a
taking
weirdo.
advantage of. There was like nothing cute or adorable about it, and I loved that.
But what about that bit when Willie is like, I'm not fucking Santa, and the kid goes, I know. Like, I think that
Right.
he knew all along that he wasn't Santa, but he doesn't have a father figure. So Willie becomes this kind of like perverse form of somebody that he can look up to, but it's all kind of screened through the mirage or the fantasy of the Santa figure. But it's not the Christmas Santa figure that we're typically fed. It's some fucking profanity-laden, alcoholic, kind of a little bit of a loose cannon type of figure. So there is some, I don't know, there's some sort of maturity in Thurman as well, because he kind of is aware of the truth all along. He just kind of uses it because he needs to deal with his own trauma. God, I'm on the trauma shtick right now. I'm sorry. Family traumas. But it's everywhere, man.
Well, I mean, they do explicitly sort of bring that stuff up in a handful of scenes with different characters. So I don't think you're far off with that. I think that the other thing too with the kid is that it's like, this is very clear that he's got nothing else to do. He's like,
Yeah.
he has no parent figure. Forget about a father figure. He barely has any kind of supervision whatsoever. And it's just one of those things. It's like, maybe I wish, there's a part of me that wishes the kid was given a little bit more to play with, that there was maybe some self-awareness layered in, or that you got some glimpses of him kind of like knowing that he's fucking with Billy Bob Thornton and, just kind of like doing it to do it. Because as it is, you're kind of like, what is this fucking kid's deal? Like, there's nothing. But I think that's part of the movie's project, is that they don't ever want you to feel like they're doing the whole maudlin, like, oh, and this kid turned my life around. And so you're like, this is not a kid who turns bad guys' lives around. He's just he's just there.
Yeah.
Like he's a total weirdo, and I loved that. I don't know. That was like my favorite part of the movie. It's just that like you think when you first see him, you're like, oh fuck, this kid is gonna change this guy's life, and I don't want to see that again. And then it totally doesn't.
Well, he is
all right.
that little. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say final thoughts on the film real quick, and then we're gonna jump into the mailbag. Go ahead, Raymond.
Oh, I was just going to say that that little kid is in another holiday themed film called Trick or Treat, in which early on in the movie his face gets carved into a jack-o'-lantern. So anyone who was annoyed by him, maybe Billy Bob Thornton included, you can get a nice cathartic viewing experience by seeing his head carved into a big smiling Halloween face.
Amanda, any final thoughts on the film?
Yeah, wait, we never talked about consumerism. The film is totally, I mean, this is like pretty on the nose there, but like he even says like, you need all this stuff. It's like, it's very much, and it like the irony of like Santa, the one who's supposed to be giving you your bike or your blah, 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 is like becomes like the thief. I feel like it's fun and smart. I don't know. I had a good time.
Yeah, Santa,
that's why
was essentially like just he is the living embodiment of consumerism. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I like the gift exchange motif, because it's very much or the sandwich as being like a simple gesture, or like this kid
The advent
makes
calendar too.
and the kid
A
makes the
wooden
little pickle
pickle.
thing. And he cuts his hand in the process, right? So again, there's something about just giving of yourself, right? That is the kind of like the important connection and bond that is made in human reciprocal relations. Whereas the accumulation of just shit from strip malls and from department stores is the vacuous, superficial, and banal element of Christmas. And you kind of do get that at the end, where Billy Bob Thornton is like, dude, do you need all that shit? Like, just find someone who's going to enjoy you because they have their trauma and you have your trauma, and you can have a great relationship and just have fun with each other. Find a little kid that's going to make you a fucking sandwich and make a little pickle thing. Like can't you just enjoy kind of like the simple things of human
Wait,
connection?
pickles
Lauren-
go on
Lauren Graham-
sandwiches.
What's
Whoa.
Whoa!
Pickles go on sandwiches.
And Lauren Graham may be an enabler, but one of the few times you see a smile on Billy Bob Thornton's face in this is when she just comes over with like a bottle of alcohol wrapped in the little, paper bag from the liquor store, and he gets really happy to see her then.
Oh my God,
That's
I didn't
right.
get that scene. We saw completely different movies.
Different movies. Yeah. All right, Austin and I will
so-
watch your version. You watch our version. We'll come back next week.
Fair. Deal.
Next year we'll reconvene and we'll do this
Sounds
again.
good.
Okay, all right. Before we jump into the mailbag, we got to give a shout out to our final sponsor. It's Magic Spoon. So for those of you who follow me on my socials or who've listened to the podcast or my other podcast, Owls at Dawn, for a while, you know that I'm a pretty healthy dude. I eat well, exercise, etc., etc. But I have a weakness. My weakness is cereal. And this is just a freaking fact. I love sugary cereals. Well, come on. Yeah, that too. But no, cereal is a weakness. I love it. I will eat a whole box of cereal, which is basically just like puffed sugar splashed with some liquid sugary protein juice. But this is why Magic Spoon is great, because Magic Spoon has stuff to offer that is 0 sugar, 11 grams of protein, and only 3 net grams of carbs in each serving. They have 4 flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and blueberry. Jump on that cocoa, trust me. It tastes amazing, and it's keto friendly. It's gluten free. Definitely make sure that if you do have gluten sensitivities, if you're celiac, anything like that, even just a little bit, you really want to make sure that you kind of cut that stuff out. It will mess you up in the long term. It's grain-free, it's soy-free, it's low-carb and GMO-free. So you can go to magicspoon.com/showme to get a variety pack and try it today. Be sure to use our promo code SHOWME at checkout as well, and that'll save you $5 off your order. That's magicspoon.com/showme. Use our promo code SHOWME at checkout. You save $5 off of your order. That's magicspoon.com/showme, or click a link in the show notes. Let's get into some mailbag stuff. We might only be able to get to one voicemail and then one email, but let's see what we can do. I really want to get to Lucy's voicemail, who wants to chime in about Goldfinger, which is the gift that just keeps on giving in terms of content. So Lucy, take it away.
Hey guys, this is Lucy, longtime listener and lover of everything Wisecrack. I was listening to your podcast on Goldfinger, and you guys made a mention of how it's a man's movie and it should be okay to make these kinds of films, even with, the problematic behaviors of James Bond, basically. So I was thinking maybe it's not that the problematic behaviors of Bond were acceptable or shouldn't be made into a film, but rather it's the behavior of the film and the way they put it under that kind of microscope or the lens that they put the behavior under as something acceptable or something that women want. If that changed, or if Bond was condemned for his behavior, I don't think that a movie with those kinds of behaviors would be wrong. More like if they gave it a lens of, well, this isn't acceptable, this isn't what women want, this is, fucked up, then I would say like, oh yeah, that me as a woman, I'd accept it on film, because it'd be like, yeah, you're absolutely right, it's unacceptable, and I don't want anybody watching the film to think it's okay. So I think that it should remain as is, because Bond is basically, like you said, he's basically frozen in amber. So as long as the problematic behavior is pointed out to be that, I don't think I'd have any problem going and watching these movies as a woman, with those kinds of, erroneous actions. But that's just me. I don't know about anybody else. Maybe we live in such a PC community that nobody can watch problematic behaviors on screen, even though it happens. And I think it would be healthier to put it on film and say, that's not okay. And for people to say, oh, this maybe that's not okay. Even James Bond is, getting into trouble for this kind of thing. But anyway, love you guys. I don't know what you think. I don't know if you'll play this, but hearts to all of y'all, and take care. Bye.
All right, what do we think? Yeah, Amanda, go ahead.
Well, I think Lucy was her name.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think Lucy hit it on the head, right? It's all about context. Like, I can, I can watch problematic behavior as long as it's like in a movie without being super upset, as long as it's contextualized. And I think the big problem is that it usually isn't.
Yeah.
And that's when it's just like a bummer. I don't know. Like, I mean, I feel like, honestly, like, as a woman, and also, like, I can't speak to, like, what, like, much more marginalized people than, like, being a white woman, like, experience when they watch cinema. It's like a diagram of, like, shitty to, like, okay. And it's like, where do you fall between shitty and okay? Just because so much of it is, like, so much of our media is through a prism of, like, white maleness. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's complicated. I mean, it would be weird to suddenly make James Bond a feminist. That would feel weird. But
yeah, and that's what the point of that she's responding to is that we talked about I put some stuff out on my socials every once in a while ahead of podcasts and was like, what do you think of this? And I had a friend who is an avid film watcher but big time supporter of James Bond, and she was basically like, fuck it, let this guy do his thing, let him bone some women and kill some people with a pencil, was like exactly what she said. And she's like, and I know that's problematic, but she's like, sometimes I want a problematic Bond. And then I thought it's a really interesting talking point, and this really relates to something that a friend of mine were talking about on the Owls at Dawn podcast, was about like because I think Netflix and things like that were talking about putting trigger warnings on certain films, and some of the streaming services were going to say like this has certain content, and like should they even censor stuff and like not allow things. And we were thinking like, is there a way that you have films almost in a way that you would have like, the issue of tearing down statues, where they're kind of like canonized but as like museum pieces, where you say, look, this film was made in this way under this context, it contains these themes, and then you have almost like, I don't know, like a little critical analysis associated with the synopsis. I don't know what the answer is, but I know it's something that people are talking about. And would you do something similar with Bond, where you say like, oh, there's James Bond, but James Bond was made in 1963, written by a notoriously homophobic author, and it tackles some very terrible themes, and there's like a trigger warning for a sexual assault in Goldfinger and all this other stuff, and it has these other themes. Like, do we want that in our like statues,
maybe?
Our digital statues? Yeah,
like, kind of,
right.
yeah. I don't know. I kind of think so. I don't know. I feel like I would rather see a trigger warning than like worry that somebody was like extra traumatized by seeing. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
And that's essentially,
I don't think there's anything wrong. I think people who complain about trigger warnings, I feel like it's like, get over yourself. Yeah. Like, it's
and then
fucking...
would you want something even more, like maybe like not like a philosophical analysis, I'm a geek and I want that, but would you want something that like, and then here's like an explanation of the themes and where they come up and how they come up, and then here's a little link to an essay on, the issue of the male gaze and all of this other, like, would you want, like, I would want something like that, because I want more information.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah,
it'd be like an educational moment as well.
That stuff is always accessible. And I think in some ways, like the MPAA logo that comes up and says, this movie is rated R for X, Y, and Z, that acts as something of a trigger warning. But I think there's a problem, I don't think they make a distinction between like sexual content / nudity and full on sexual assault, which is what happens in Goldfinger. And
I mean, there are some depictions of sexual assault that they would rate PG-13, and like some depictions
like
of
Bond,
consensual sex that they would rate R. Like, the rating system is so fucked. That's another story.
Yeah.
I feel like it does kind of come down to the like Archer, like James Bond versus Archer. Like, Archer makes it very clear when the protagonist is acting like a shithead. Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to like emulate that behavior. Whereas, obviously
Bond is essentially just like male wish fulfillment. And I think that's where the argument comes down, is like the difference between depiction and endorsement. Like, I think that any movie can depict something tastefully, but I would say in Goldfinger, I mean, they're endorsing Bond's whole fucking shtick, his whole worldview. He's the hero of the longest running film franchise in history. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're endorsing all of his shitheel behavior. And that's where I have an issue with it, that I'm just like, I don't feel like I want to watch. I don't think we should wave a wand and make Goldfinger disappear, but I'm like, I don't think I'll be rewatching this one anytime soon.
Literally, my first boyfriend's bar mitzvah was James Bond themed, and he had a bit. Oh my god, I shouldn't get into this. No, but there was like a video they played for the
go to patreon.com/wisecrack for this whole story.
There was a video that they played of him just like posing with a bunch of like half naked like women in bikinis on a boat being Bond, and I was like, "You're 13. What is going on?" And then I dated him anyway.
Yes,
and that's how he reeled you in.
Yeah, I do want to hear more, but unfortunately we're out of time. So if you want to leave us a voicemail about related topics, you can call us at 1-213-534-8807. That's 1-213-534-8807. I feel like this is going to be a conversation that we're going to continue to explore in years to come. So please give us your thoughtful information and feedback. We love hearing from you because you guys are always so astute and insightful. So please give us a call, 1-213-534-8807. You can also email us, movies@wisecrack.co. That's movies@wisecrack.co. All right, where can people find you on the internet, Amanda?
I'm writing Wisecrack videos all the time. I tweet like once every 3 months at my name, Amanda Shirker. You'll get the thrill of a quarterly thought.
And Raymond, what about you, brother?
You can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd. I'm at Crematoria. And also, I just want to say it's the end of a rough year. We just watched a movie with two wonderful actors who passed away, John Ritter and Bernie Mac. Rest in peace to those gentlemen. We lost a few folks this year in the entertainment industry. We mentioned Sean Connery on our Goldfinger episode. Chadwick Boseman, I'm sure folks remember when he passed away. But there's also a wonderful filmmaker who passed away in May. Her name was Lynn Shelton, and I just wanted to shout her out because she's one of my favorite filmmakers, and she wasn't A-list. She wasn't celebrated in the same way as some of these other folks. So I would just say, rest in peace, Lynn Shelton. Just wanted to take a moment on our movie podcast to celebrate a movie maverick, gone too soon but not forgotten.
I love that. She's amazing.
She was the best.
I completely forgot that Bernie Mac passed away. I kind of thought that he was still doing his thing, was just quiet. Damn. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm Austin Hayden Smith. You can find me on Twitter, Austin_Hayden, on Insta, AUS_HAY. I do a philosophy podcast called Owls at Dawn, yada, yada, yada. Raymond, send us out, brother.
I'm trying. Can I do? I fucked up the holiday one.
Do it.
Do it. Jingle bells, we've shown you the meaning. Everybody have a good Christmas and New Year's. Happy holidays, everyone.